Welcome back, YouTube. Today, we're here to talk about the long-awaited Pulsar X2-H. So if you guys frequent this channel, you'll know the Pulsar X2 is one of my top mics of all time. One of the first things I ever said upon using the X2 was I wish the hump was just a little bit bigger.
As a X2 Mini fan, I also wish the X2 Mini's hump was taller or bigger.
Now, needless to say, I joined the Pulsar Discord and I put that into the product suggestion channel. Now, I know a lot of you guys would have known me via the Pulsar Discord and came from there. So shout out to everyone in the Pulsar Discord. About a month or two after I put that message in, Pulsar announced the X2-H. And since then, this has been my most awaited mouse pretty much ever. Finally, here we are, almost 9 months later, the time of a newborn child.
What did he say?
The Pulsar X2-H is finally in my hands. Does this mouse finally answer all my hopes and dreams, cure my depression, end world hunger, save humanity?
Stop it. Get some help.
So as always, I must give you guys a quick summary. This mouse is S+ tier. In fact, the X2-H and the X2-V2 are the only two mice outside of Lamzu that has managed to join the S+ tier list. The shape is excellent, the tech specs and internals are excellent, the build quality is excellent, and there's only so many points I can nitpick on as we go through the video. So is it worth buying one? 200%. The mouse comes inside a standard Pulsar box. Now inside it, you get greeted with the mouse. Then inside the box, you would have the receiver, a paracorded USB-C cable, which I have already hooked up onto my computer. Inside the little Pulsar pack, you also get the quick start guide and the Pulsar warranty card in this thing, some Pulsar stickers, or one Pulsar sticker, and also a collector's card. So this is something pretty cool done by Pulsar. The mouse weighs in at 54 grams. It uses optical switches, features a new Pulsar Blue encoder. The sensor is a 3395. It's 4K compatible with the upcoming Pulsar 4K receiver. It retails for $100 US or 160 Australian dollars from Osmod Shop if you're in Australia. Unfortunately, this is higher than what the X2 used to be at, which was either 150 or 155 Australian dollars. I'm assuming due to the crash of the Australian dollars, everything went up again. RIP AUD. Straight into build quality and QC. Now this is a major pain point of the old Pulsar X2. Thankfully, on their later batches and models of the X2, the QC standards were significantly higher than they were previously. Now, with the new X2-H and also X2-V2, the build quality is phenomenal. Once you pick this thing up, you'll really start to question, is this really from Pulsar? You know, that same Pulsar that made the original X2? There's no creaking, there's no flexing of any sort that I can feel. I've even stuck my fingers inside the back of this mouse. Wait, hang on. That was a bit sus.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
I've even stuck my fingers inside the back of this mouse in order to see what was in the back part of this shell. And it seems they've attached a plastic piece inside of it to give it a bit of extra support on the hump. Now, if you compare this to the original X2s here, you can see that they've trimmed the PCB, which is why you couldn't actually see what's going on inside before, but over here you now can. The sensor is a 3395. Needless to say, this is a proven sensor. If you're after any technical specs or latency tests and things like that, there are many places online that you can go have a look for. The placement here is what's important to me. Needless to say, the sensor placement on the X2 here is excellent. Now, in fact, it might even be a little bit better than the regular X2 relative to the position you would hold the mouse at. The hump on the X2-H here is so big that your hand is going to be a bit further back on the mouse where you grip it compared to if you were gripping the regular X2, which you can hold it a bit more forward. And therefore, the sensor is closer to where your fingertips are and feels more responsive. Moving on to clicks. Unfortunately, this is a point where I can't give the highest rating to the clicks. The quality on the clicks are excellent, the buttons are tight and there's no wobble at all. Compared to the old X2s, this is a significant improvement. However, the click itself is quite heavy. There is a little bit of break in time, but even then, it's still noticeably heavier than most other mice around now. I wouldn't put this on the ROG HUMP Aces level. It's a bit more similar to that of the XM2WE, but very slightly lighter than it. It still feels a bit over-tensioned, and in addition, the click itself isn't exactly the crispiest either. Now, it doesn't bother me in game at all, but I think in general, most people would prefer slightly lighter and also crispier. In terms of weight and distribution, now the mouse weighs at 54 grams, and that's okay. That's really good weight. The distribution, however, isn't as perfect as the previous X2 was. Instead, this mouse feels slightly front heavy despite this really big back hump. Being front heavy, in my opinion, is not a good thing. I'd rather a mouse be back heavy, especially on mice like this. This is because micro adjustments come from the front of the mouse and your fingers, while the stability factor comes from the rear of the mouse where your palm is pushing down on it. Especially on mice like the X2-H here, it's intended for claw grip. This kind of grip where your palm is pushing on the back and you micro adjust using the front. You'd want more weight on the back so the mouse can be stable, and less weight on the front that makes micro adjustments feel effortless. However, the slight off-balance weight distribution here does the opposite. It makes the front micro adjustments a little bit slower, a bit more sluggish. Now with that being said, this is where different skates and different mousepad combinations will also influence your experience. In this case, this is the first time in ages where I've ever felt that my claw pads are a bit slow, and I'm considering changing these to Tiger Ice and Tiger Ice V2. A faster skate or pad will make it fine in this regard. Now as you can see in this glide test here, both of these mice have claw pads on it, but the X2 Bruce Lee glides a lot better when it's on a full horizontal motion. The X2-H here, however, when you do that, same thing, the back starts to rotate a bit more and results in a bit of a spin, because the front is stopping way earlier from being heavier. Now needless to say, it's not actually that significant, but just something to be aware of. In terms of skates and replacements, the stock Pulsar skates are actually alright, but I just change everything to claw pads nonetheless. On the bright side, the X2-H here uses the same skate design as the regular X2, so you can just get any X2 skate and slap it on the X2-H. In terms of skate design itself, I think they're both good. There isn't much for me to complain about here. The sizing is alright. It's not 4 small corners, but it's also not too large that it feels like there's just way too much drag on the mouse. Now in this case, I would still recommend switching to faster skates, such as the Tiger Ice, to accommodate for that slightly heavier front in order to make the micro adjustments really good. So now we move on to shape. And this is probably the most important part of this video. Compared to the regular X2, the hump here is even more elevated, it's also widened, the front is narrower, and the sides have been tapered. Now as a result, the back of this mouse really does feel big and fills out the palm. Does it feel good?
Give me a hell yeah!
For my hand size of 21x12 though, the sides now feel a little bit too narrow. Now I know most people actually complained about the width of the regular X2, saying that it was too wide, but for bigger hands like mine, it was perfect. Just that there wasn't enough height on the back here instead. The X2-H here now has really good height, but it sacrifices the width. Especially given that the sides are now tapered and it's sloped, it makes the mouse feel even more narrow, and I wish they had kept the sides flat like they did on the regular X2. I do enjoy the flatter sides. However, I think for the majority of you guys out there, this shouldn't be an issue and you'll find the dimensions perfect. The narrower front really gives you a lot of micro adjustment room with your fingers, and things should feel very natural. Meanwhile, the rear hump adds even more stability for when you need it by pushing down. It's just an all-round extremely good shape. So even with faster skates, you won't encounter any stability issues, because there's so much hump on the back. The skate speed will assist the front of the mouse with micro adjustments, while you still get that stability by pushing down on this rear hump. For me personally, the mouse is still just a tad small, but so is every other mouse on the market in some way or another. All in all, do I think the X2-H is a better shape than the regular X2? Yes, but you're a bit more limited on the grip style using the X2-H. The X2-H here is definitely a claw-only mouse, whether that be aggressive or relaxed. The regular X2, however, is actually a safer shape for those that want to do all kinds of grips. Fingertippers will definitely prefer the regular X2 over the X2-H, which has too much hump and too slim sides for fingertip. In addition, you can palm the regular X2 a bit better because the mouse is flatter and less tall compared to the X2-H here. With that being said, I wouldn't recommend either of these if you wanted to do palm grip. So then who should buy the X2-H here? If you're a claw gripper, then you must try one of these. If you aren't a claw gripper, then you should become one and try one of these. Just try one of these. It's not in the S+ tier for nothing. Relaxed claw grip supremacy. So once again, I'd like to congratulate Pulsar on an extremely well-designed mouse. Now they've come a long way since they've started, and it's especially nice to see that Pulsar takes community feedback very seriously, and they put it into their designs. Coming from the X2 now to the X2-H, if only some of these larger companies will give us what we want rather than constantly releasing things that no one asked for, you guys know what I'm talking about. Nonetheless, thank you guys for watching this video, and I wish you all the best in securing your own unit of the X2-H, because this is the real deal. Peace.